Alright, so now to get into some of the spoilers a little bit. I guess I don't really need to say too much about the music. Like I already said, I really enjoy the music. And they use like that string instrumental part during the big fight between Deku and Overhaul. And you see Eri in the middle of the air between them and all that, you know, cutting out all the other sounds, all this distractions, all whatever, and just play that beautiful music. It's amazing. And then Overhaul's theme as well, it had a different sound to what we generally hear in this in My Hero. You know, I had a little bit more of those drums, a little bit more of a hip-hop feeling to it. I think it worked out very well. And the way the whole story arc ended, I mean, I guess this is spoilers part, so I could just talk about it, but it just kind of felt more, I mean, they played a decent bit in this last episode of the story arc, especially in the beginning part where they were re-showing a lot of the fight from before, which I felt, the fight felt even better watching it cut down. So, I mean, I enjoy seeing all the emotional moments, the thoughts, and all the stuff from, you know, that normally happen in an anime fight. But having it cut down to just a lot of action, this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened, here's music, we just doing it real quick while we catch up. It wasn't one of the episodes that gave me chills specifically. I'll talk about that in a moment when I talk about the characters, but I definitely still really enjoyed it. Visuals were very good as well. It definitely had some, I guess, I mean, like my favorite anime is Mob Psycho 100, so when you're talking about crazy fight scenes, animated to craziness, like even just watching the opening of Mob Psycho, which is blow almost everything out of the water. I guess you could put it up there with a lot of stuff from One Punch Man as well. And My Hero has definitely had some moments that lived up to it. I didn't feel like this season specifically had too much during the big finals fight. They did have a few moments that were really good, and then in earlier scenes they had like scenes of like good fluid motion, fluid action and stuff. It just didn't, I guess maybe because I wasn't hearing I wasn't hearing you say run play in the background, I just wasn't feeling it quite as amazingly as with, you know, the season 1 All Might versus Nomu, season 2 Deku versus Todoroki, season 3 All Might versus All for One. Like just Chisaki, or I guess Overhaul, if you don't know his name's Chisaki. His face when he was about to be defeated, he just looks up, and the way that animated it, it really reminded me of that animated movie Redline. It really reminded me of Redline, honestly. But yeah, that was really amazing. I definitely enjoyed that a lot. And I think there was some scenes where they played a little bit more with the visuals. Like there was a scene where they were inside the trying to infiltrate headquarters, the walls were twisting, everything was turning. It did feel like it was 3D animated. I think it worked pretty well with the scene. And then again, like some of the fight scenes were done in that kind of like stop motion-y style. I think that also works as well because it was kind of those situations where you know it was a lost fight in a way. Like as much as you want to cheer, you're sitting here like feeling the emotion. You wanted to cheer for Mirio to save the day, and you know he was going to, you know, Harry was not going to die on his watch. It was not going to happen. But at the same time, you know, he just can't beat these people. They have crazy powers. Shisaki's tearing up the ground. He's just not going to win. Like, all he can do is hold off, keep distracting, keep throwing him off guard, keep doing this stuff, keep it up as long as he can, but you know he's not going to win. So I feel like it all worked and the emotion still hit in that moment. I guess I'll talk about the story arc right now instead of going into character individuals, talk about the story arc. So it was very interesting. So, you know, start out with our students living together and everything, and then going into their internships, work studies, I guess, not internships. And then, you know, introducing more characters related to All Might, introducing more characters related to the world as a whole. Like I said, introducing the Mafia or Yakuza, I guess, as kind of a counterpart to the League of Villains, because the League of Villains are a little bit like we do what we want whenever we want. Let's destroy stuff, let's just attack stuff, let's just do whatever. And then you have like the Yakuza who have these rules and laws and stuff they follow that they kind of bind themselves with in order to stay in society and not get, you know, their door kicked in and get beaten up by heroes all the time, but at the same time keep up some of their traditions, some of their stuff that we don't know specifically what they're doing. I'm pretty sure so a lot of it was illegal, but it was done in a way where they were very low-key about it, as opposed to the League of Villains, which have the name League of Villains, and, you know, stand on top of rooftops laughing while unleashing Nobu's. Like, they're not at all subtle, so they're very different, and it was very interesting. Like, the story right off the bat sets up this whole deal of, you know, when they meet All Might's old sidekick, who's training Mirio, and Night Eye's training Mirio, and then Mirio, in a way, is the better, more ideal hero to follow All Might. Just like then you have Chisaki showing up, being this leader who seems to be the better, more ideal villain, as opposed to the leader of the League of Villains, the current leader, Shigaraki. So, it's kind of a situation where both our main hero and our main villain have to step up and show why they deserve their position in the story. It's interesting because the whole challenge is put into a world where they have to face it. But it's also, not only is it for the characters within the story, it's also for you, the audience. Because I know a lot of people, upon seeing Mirio and his story and his struggle and his fight, they were immediately like, ooh, I really feel like he's the better hero, he's the bigger one. We've seen Deku do some stuff, he's been willing to put himself on the line and hurt himself to save others. But it doesn't show as much. It shows like he's smart, it shows he's got a huge heart, it shows he's got that bravery. But it's not the exact same thing as someone who's fighting against their own odds. The thing is, Deku, as much as we love him in the beginning of the story, and it wasn't like he was literally doing nothing with his life, but he technically wasn't doing anything with his life. He was studying heroes, he was studying everything, he was being a fanboy, but he wasn't struggling for his goal. He wanted to talk, he did fight, grab onto All Might's leg and ask about being a hero, but he wasn't actively fighting to do it because, everyone told him he couldn't, and he was like, he didn't accept it flat out, but he wasn't flat out rejecting it either. So he was just in this weird limbo. Meanwhile, you have Mirio, who, almost falls and drowns as a kid, and, his dad's sitting there, which are saying, hey, you can't, this doesn't work, son. I've tried. This doesn't happen. And so, we're going to do it. It's just like the whole Night Eye was pretty interested to see Deku and All Might saying you're going to grab Future and twist it and grab it, and control it, whatever. It was kind of like Mirio was doing that from a very young age. He was hurting himself, he was doing whatever, but he was like, I'm being a hero. It does not matter what this, it doesn't matter if I don't even use my quirk. I'm going to be a hero, He just trained and pushed so hard for this. So it was like, we've seen our hero, we've seen Deku stand up whenever opposition shows its face. He stands up to it. But even when there's nothing and it's just him and himself struggling, it was not as clear, that struggle was not as well shown in him. And having Mirio had this clear, right off the bat, beat the whole class and just show how much better he is, and then showed how hard he had to work to get there. I'm diving into characters versus the overarching story, but like I said, it was a good, nice parallel between those two. And then you have basically in the earlier parts of the story, you kind of feel like Deku kind of steps aside a lot once the raid begins and all that. Deku does some kicking, he does some stuff, but for the first 2 episodes or so of the raid, Deku feels like heavyweight. You've got other people doing the big stuff in this story arc. And in a way, I feel like that kind of mirrored what was going on within the world as well. Mirio was stepping up, you had Kirishima stepping up, you had all these other characters stepping up and doing their best and putting this huge effort in there. It was pretty amazing seeing Deku in the final couple episodes, put his whole life on the line, honestly, for it. And, and rightfully so. I really, it definitely was a moment where I was just sitting there cheering. Honestly, for the next probably 24 hours after watching him beat Overhaul, had me walking around the place just playing images of it in my head, just like, man, if only I was there at the moment to just be with him when he just threw those punches or just did this, it was just amazing. But to get back to the story, time travel and then seeing the future and seeing the past and stuff like that, it's still not 100% clear because a lot of the stuff we know is from the point of view of someone talking, which we don't know if it's from that character talking or is it the writer actually dropping down and saying this is what's going on. It's not 100% clear. So far, everything that Night Eye has seen has come to pass. Aside from Deku dying, even though you could say technically if Eri hadn't rewound time, Deku would have died from using too much power and broken whatever, and he just would have been destroyed in an instant if Chisaki had actually laid a hand on him. So you could have said that he I mean, the thing is, it seemed like he saw the future. He didn't see a possible future. They set up like he saw the future no matter what. Like, no matter what he did differently, everything ended up the way he saw it. Which is interesting because I guess that's part of his power, touching someone and seeing the future play out around them or whatever. So no matter what he's doing, maybe does he see himself in those situations? I don't even know. Whatever he does differently or whatnot doesn't change what other people do. Maybe that's how that works. It's an interesting idea. I feel like I could make a long video just talking about him, Sir Night-Eye and his powers, but the fact that stuff didn't work out the way he saw it was a very big thing. Like, could mean All Might's not gonna die soon in the future, or he could still. Because I mean, again, we don't know. Could be just Aerie in her somewhat time-related power might be what messes up his prediction, so to speak. Speaking of that, that last episode was really emotional with Night-Eye's passing. I didn't know it was going to happen. Like, when he first got introduced, and there was a lot of talk about it, and even when I was reading the manga, I was like, how is he going to? How are you going to have a character like this? Like, honestly, there's too many situations where, especially the way the story arc was going, he could have to a degree, get over his fears due to the story arc. And then you would think he would come out of that and use his powers more often, and it would just be too helpful. Then again, he kept Aerie around, and she's also another character where you're like, how does this fit with the character so much? But I really enjoyed that. Mirio, having him lose his powers after all that struggling, after all that work, was just one of the biggest moments for me. But for me, the big ones is Sun Eater and Kirishima. Those two were the big MVPs of this season for me. Like, those are the two characters that had me wanting to shed some tears over seeing them overcome their own limits, their own self-doubts, their own issues. Like, that's the stuff that really speaks to me a lot. And whenever I'm in a lot of situations with a lot of people and a lot of the things, I often feel like I kind of feel like I'm one of those characters in a lot of ways. Whether or not I'm the one who sits there like, ooh, too many people looking at me, I gotta think of them as potatoes. It's not working. They're still staring at me. Potatoes have eyes, something like that. I kind of relate to that a lot. And Kirishima, the other thing that I've been talking to some people about it more recently, is the whole, since say beginning of season 2 to now, he's been so, in a way, static. Like, he's been great. We've seen his friendship with Bakugo grow. We've seen him do various actions, have a lot of dialogue, a lot of scenes that have given us little insights into him. But not only a story, I think a good story should not only have our characters, us learn more about their characters and then become more and more fully fleshed out people as we see them throughout the story, but the people themselves shouldn't be the exact same they were at the beginning and the end. Like, that's one thing you met here in all my reviews, I mentioned that. So having him himself look back and say, over all this time, I haven't gotten better, I haven't gotten stronger, I haven't done anything really. Like, basically any action I did yesterday would be the same action I would do, 2 seasons ago. Like, it hasn't changed. Like, all these events, all these stuff around me, and me as a person, I'm somewhat stagnant. And it was interesting because normally that's something you look at from someone outside the story, looking into the story. You see that and you're like, they're just sitting there. Like, the writers are just, okay, well, they just introduce characters you love, you just see them do stuff they love, they just don't move, they don't change over time, they don't, develop as people. But it's very interesting because within World, he noticed that in himself, and it becomes, instead of seeing as the writers doing this, it becomes he himself just doesn't change with all this stuff. Like, he himself doesn't adapt, and that's the part where it's interesting, where he then has to make a decision where he's like, well, if all I do is stand here and be a wall for other people, be that support, be that whatever, then I need to be the best at it that I can possibly be. And I hit my limit, I'm gonna go even further at it. This stuff's been mentioned by people around him, like Aizawa and stuff like that. But it was like in a moment where we got to see him stand up. Like, got to see him twice stand up and just, he loves to say manly, and I could say, being manly, but that's not specifically what it is, but, it's the term he likes to use for it, I guess. But I just really love that. Like, you don't even know I got artwork like on the computer. I'm just Kirishima's awesome. And Sun Eater's another one where in the manga, when I read it, I was like, okay, that's cool. I definitely enjoyed his story arc, and I'm like, I relate to being shy and around all these people and all that, and people constantly saying how great he is at something, and being like, I just ate some food and learned some whatever. Like, he didn't seem to have that struggle that Mirio and other characters had, but he was still considered on high regard, but he himself didn't feel it, he didn't see it, he didn't wasn't sure why people were pushing him that hard and saying he was so good. And I read the manga, I was like, okay, that's cool. I don't know, but when I actually saw in the episode and saw, I guess, the way they put it together, some of the scenes, I feel like they were roughly pretty similar to how they were in the manga, but it may have been a little different. But somehow in seeing it, I just really felt it more. And seeing him defeat the trio, the people who at first glance was like, this is a random 3 people, but when they fought together, you're like, okay, they fight together pretty well. Seeing him defeat them was just my compliments to the writer. All Might wasn't. It's also, I guess, nice seeing him keep on transitioning onto being that teaching person and seeing. I mean, again, we didn't see too much of him in the story arc because he wasn't there during the whole raid, but it's still nice seeing how the world's changed since the big fight and seeing how he's grown more into that role he has. Obviously, we did have Froppy and Uraka. Butchering names left and right, Uravity. Just call her that. I did say Froppy, so I could have said Froppy and Uravity, but anyway. It was nice seeing them do some stuff there. There's also some people were mentioning some comments on her fighting style and how well she was utilizing it. Like, first thing after Sasaki fell, she was immediately grabbing his arms and keeping them away. He was unconscious, keeping them away from touching anything, the ground, whatever, in case he has a flicker of a thought. She's already got him locked down and ready. I was like, that was pretty nice. Like, it is nice seeing her grow as a fighter. We didn't specifically get to see it as much. Like, we saw her weightlifting people. Well, I'm butchering that like crazy, but we got to see her use her powers to lift heavier people up, move around and stuff like that, and which was pretty helpful. But I don't feel like this story was specifically one made to really advance her character a whole lot. It was really just down to Mirio, Kirishima, Sun Eater, Deku, because I feel like getting to see him actually use 100% was also, we saw the movie, but getting to see that was also like a big moment there. And we've always known that he's been willing to sacrifice himself to stop a bad guy, to help someone, but it was still like a big moment. Maybe not the hugest moment of character growth, but it was still a big moment. I definitely feel like it was very, very emotional. I'm trying to think if there's any others. Night Eye, I may have mentioned him already, and his story was really good. I'm definitely going to miss him to be kind of that practical balance out to All Might's, so we can muscle our way through it. That's one of the interesting things heroes have always brought up, the more idealistic versus the super pragmatic view of stuff, where it's like, yes, we want to save the most people, but we got to look at all the details, make sure we're actually saving all the people, versus others who are like, we're going to save these people. It does not matter, all circumstances, all whatever, we're saving these people. It's interesting seeing the two go at it, and I feel like in losing Night Eye, you just kind of lost a big part of it. You do have people like Aizawa who does kind of balance it out a lot of it, because they don't have, I guess people who don't have those crazy flashy powers are the ones who are more likely to be like, all right, let's actually sit down, think it through, and strategize it out. But which is where I guess Mirio ends up being in an interesting balance, because his power, while allowing him to be very physical and being very in people's face and bombastic in a way if you want to, he still has to be very thoughtful and very methodical about it. So I guess it was that nice middle ground between the two. But at the end of the day, Deku has it, and I'm still happy for him to have it. I don't really want, I guess I could move into future predictions and future talks, because like I said, I haven't read past this in the manga, so I don't know what's happening exactly next. I do know that we're going to see some more about some of the other heroes in the class we haven't seen as much, students. I'm pretty happy to see that. Ooh, I guess to talk about that very last scene there where Night Eye is like, I see you being one of the greatest heroes. I really don't think Mirio's going to get his power back. I don't think Eri works that way. It seemed weird, like she genetically reversed him back to before humans had quirks. I feel like it's a weird thing to reverse her reversal. Like, I don't feel like that really makes sense. I feel like keeping him without it would work. And I definitely do still feel like he can be someone who helps in a lot of situations and still fights when he needs to. But I I feel for now, just like Overhaul without his arms, it's kind of like, you know, both of them are just kind of out of the game. Like, they're going to be still there as present in the story and have, you know, effects on it and perhaps be able to talk and do stuff, but I do not think, obviously be able to talk and, you know, interact with the people, other people in the story, but I don't really want them to both return to their power forms and be the people they were at the beginning of the start, because I feel like this is a big emotional journey for everybody, for us the viewers and the people in the story, and I kind of like it to, for the most part, stay settled where it is right now. But yes, that's my general thoughts on the overall arc. And I'm looking forward to see what next My Hero does. And I'm also, you know, still watching other shows and still watching other movies that I said I'd review, and I will get to it, but this is, I guess, some of my first thoughts on Overhaul, arc. Who knows, might be back in like one day to have with a whole list itemized of what else I want to talk about, because there's more. I'm just not thinking about it at the moment. I just wanted to say shout out to Kirishima, shout out to Sun Eater, shout out to Deku, shout out to Eri. Ooh, I didn't really talk about it, but just, you know, they literally showed a screen of her getting cut open and healing, but obviously they showed it from the other angle, so we weren't seeing blood and whatnot exactly, but man, that was rough. Another character, I'm sitting there just watching her. We didn't directly see her backstory other than in the closing, but you did get it from people talking and stuff, and I'm very curious to see where she goes next. I have zero idea, actually, based off of somehow avoided all spoilers related to her in the future, so I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, she's going to get out of this fever somehow, but I'm very curious to see where she goes, and I'm very, very... I also just want to shout out to writer Horikoshi. He just keeps on killing it, taking the best out of comics, the best ideas and concepts, combining it with my favorite stuff about anime and the way they really dive into characters' backstories and have that keep and keep affecting people to the moment. Like, as much as I love, you know, a lot of Western comics and Western stuff, they tell great backstory for characters, they often tend to just leave the backstory in the bag and just have. So this is where they were left at the end of their backstory. This is their mindset. We'll just keep it at that. We'll have them go through this and that, snap right back to keep it. I mean, I'm specifically talking about comics, but they just refuse to just have characters just really, really change. So, anyway. Overhaul arc. Sense. My opinions. I am totally not copying Fantano.